Greetings and welcome, everyone. Not too long ago, I came across an article on Tumblr by Marvel&Ponder. It was a response to the idea I came up with that Sunburst might, in fact, one day become Starswirl the Bearded. And I found what she discussed here quite intriguing. So much so that I wanted to share her thoughts here with all of you. I hope everyone here will give it a listen and continue the discussion in the comments below. Some time ago, Dr. Wolf posted a theory that Sunburst could in fact be a young Starswirl the Bearded. This was in response to a trailer for the Season 7 premiere that has since been given more context, but the idea was so fun that it stuck with me. Given that we've already had some crazy time travel adventures, we know for a fact this sort of story is possible. So for starters, let's get into some time travel logic. Starswirl's time spell is the sort that loops. As in, if someone uses the spell, their interference in the past is what leads to the present they came from. This is called a causal loop, or temporal causality loop, which just sounds cooler. It's where an event is the cause for another event, which itself is the cause for the original event. Yeah, loop is a good word. We've even seen it in action. In It's About Time, we see Twilight worrying too much because of future Twilight, only to find out that was the problem she went back in time to warn herself about. A causal loop. In this case, a self-fulfilling prophecy, which is a type of causal loop. But even in the cutie remark, we're working with the same rules. It's thanks to something called the Novikov self-consistency principle. Back in the 1980s, a physicist named Ivan Novikov came up with a bunch of fancy physics principles that, for our purposes, basically boiled down to a simple conclusion. You can't change the past. These two ideas go hand in hand in the MLP universe when you think about it. So here are our hard and fast rules for time travel. 1. Causal loop. If you go back in time, your going back is what causes the present you came from, which causes you to go back in time to cause the present, etc. 2. Self-consistency principle. You logically cannot change the past that leads to anything except the present you came from. 3. The butterfly effect. In the event you do create a change that doesn't lead to the present you came from, any small change can branch out to have untold consequences temporarily. But don't worry. Because of the self-consistency principle, you logically have to eventually fix things. Otherwise, you couldn't have come back in time in the first place. You would be a different person in the first place, different memories. So, Starlight, Twilight, and Spike eventually standing to the side and not interfering with the past was inevitable in order for them to be who they are. The fact that Starlight's version of the spell continually brought them back to the past until they got it right seems to indicate that to me. Starlight also specified that she used the map's magic to go to any time and place she wants. For as long as she wants, they could apparently exist there for all eternity. So in terms of the actual time travel spell itself, she isn't operating under different rules, meaning she hasn't changed the whole casual loop thing. They still go back in time and reenact what would lead them to the present they came from. It's just a bigger loop, thanks to some more powerful magic. So, a character getting trapped back in time and going on to live the rest of their days there is entirely possible. It just means they were supposed to, because it's another loop. A much bigger loop. But beyond all that time travel mumbo-jumbo, we obviously don't have anything close to confirmation for the Sunburst goes back in time to live out his days as Starswirl theory. It's theoretically possible in this world, but possible isn't proof. But let's say hypothetically the writers wanted to go down this path. I for one would like to know how they could do it. Perhaps this is better suited for a fan fiction than an analysis series, and by all means, please go write stories based off this theory. All the same, let's treat this as a how it could be done sort of thing, to build on this theory with what's already established in-universe. To do that, we'll need to gather some evidence, and again, I use the word with the spirit of fun in mind, there's nothing conclusive. The first is the time travel spell itself. Clue number 1. The disappearing time travel spell. At the conclusion of the cutie remark, we see the nearly ripped time travel scroll get somehow mysteriously sucked away. Now, Starlight said she was the one who designed the spell to take them back to the Rain Boom again and again, so this may also be her doing, but it's unclear what exactly is being done. It seems to have some kind of shockwave out, which I guess implies they're out of the time loop now, but that doesn't explain where the scroll ended up. All we know is the same time portal Twilight, Spike, and Starlight came out of seems to suck the spell up with it. But not without first taking some magic from the map, which was what allowed the spell to be so powerful. I'm not sure if that would enchant the parchment itself, giving it the same immense power to travel to any time for as long as the pony using it wants. But the fact that it disappeared into a time portal, even if it appeared to be the same one they were ejected from, seems like something the writers left for whenever they need it. Where did it end up? Was it supposed to do that? And if so, why? We didn't see anyone's magic lifting it toward the portal, but was someone on the other side of that portal waiting? Does someone have the spell now, or better yet, will they? Clue number 2. Starswirl never understood friendship like Twilight. In the past, we've seen supplementary material portray Starswirl in a variety of different ways, from Celestia and Luna's point of view in the Journal of the Two Sisters, to his own in Legends of Magic, to a third-person, more objectively told story in the Reflections arc. But in the show, what little we know of him comes from and in relation to Twilight. In particular, a line that always stuck with me, that he was unable to complete his Cutie Mark restoration spell because he didn't understand friendship. At least, not like Twi. Which is a bit saddening given that he mentored Luna and Celestia. Luna did end up feeling isolated, so perhaps Starswirl's lack of expertise in friendship played a role in that. It seems he was still focused on teaching them magic and writing his many spells. Even if he loved them as students, which I suspect he did given his B-canon portrayals, he evidently didn't do enough to save them from their fate. Does Sunburst not understand friendship? He and Starlight have reunited now, but then again, you certainly couldn't say he's an expert in friendship, and in the same way Twilight focused on her studies, Sunburst did focus heavily on the study of magic instead of, say, visiting Starlight. He's still studying magic in the Crystal Empire, so he might very well still be a borderline shut-in. Now that he's Flurry Heart's magic advisor, perhaps that's starting to slowly change. Then again, if Starswirl could not understand friendship and still be Celestia and Luna's mentor, couldn't Sunburst theoretically also miss some crucial understanding about friendship while looking after Flurry Heart? Clue number 3. Sunburst's talents with magic theory and Starswirl's 200+ spells. Here's one of the more compelling coincidences. Sunburst can't perform any of the magic theory he's been studying his whole life, but he's still a very good magic theorist. I might even wager a guess that Starlight's habit of combining spells comes from Sunburst, as that's something he's been shown to do in the crystalling part too. We know for a fact that Starswirl was the father of the amniomorphic spell, the most important conjurer of the pre-classical era, and that he created more than 200 spells. But we don't actually know if he could perform any of that magic himself. Now, that's a stretch, but when you think about it, it holds true for just about everything we know about the things Starswirl has done. Even when Starswirl banished the sirens to the Equestria Girls' dimension, it wasn't like he made those portals with his own magic. He found them, at least according to the Reflections arc. And in Legends of Magic, he seems to know combat magic, but then again, he makes his escape off-screen, so we never see him cast much of anything. For all we know, Starswirl might be a great wizard, maybe the greatest, but not necessarily a powerful one. His talent lies in writing spells. Clue number 4. Very important wizard. Okay, this one's just neat from a storytelling perspective. We've been introduced to Sunburst as someone who's insecure about not being a very important wizard. That's how we know him, a resourceful but ultimately powerless magician. If, in fact, he were to turn out to be the most important wizard of them all, even despite his lack of natural talent for magic, that's just wonderful, don't you think? That he found ways to be influential in the magic world despite the handicap of not being able to use that magic? He became the most important wizard of all time, even despite his problems performing magic himself. Clue number 5. Changing appearance? Starswirl actually doesn't have a consistent eye color or look at the moment. We've seen him with gold eyes, gray, and even purple, and most recently blue in Legends of Magic. I suppose if we were explaining how Sunburst could turn into Starswirl, his entire coat would have to gray completely, if we're going with the depictions of Starswirl with a white or gray coat. A pony's coat can gray in real life, so perhaps it's possible in this world. Or we could guess that Sunburst would knowingly disguise himself as what he knows Starswirl to look like via some kind of spell, if he had a reason to assume that role. Speaking of purely cosmetic similarities, I would also like to mention that in a matter of speaking, Starswirl and Sunburst are kinda synonymous with each other. In the same way that Twilight Sparkle, Sunset Shimmer, and Starlight Glimmer are supposed to parallel each other, it's roughly the same name. A sun is of course a star, and both a burst and a swirl suggest an outward projection. Another neat coincidence, I guess. Just like the fact that both of them wear capes and grow beards. That's what we're left with when theory crafting something like this. Coincidences that can help us imagine fantastical fanfiction, but can't ultimately take us any closer to knowing who Starswirl the Bearded actually was. Whether Sunburst or just Pony of a long-gone era. One thing that still intrigues me, though, is that according to the comics, Starswirl didn't die. He went missing. And there are elements in play, like his mysteriously vanishing time spell scroll, that are available for the MLP staff to act on whenever they so choose. So perhaps we'll never know who Starswirl was, outside of B canon and the legends we've been told thus far. Or maybe we'll get to learn who he is someday, and some or all of this will come into play. Who knows? This pony has both a past and a future that's shrouded in mystery. So much so that this theory is only one of many, and will continue to be until we meet again. And until that day, I hope to share many more theories together. Once more, I'd like to thank Marvel&Ponder for taking one of my video concepts and building upon it in rather intriguing ways. I honestly hope that we'll get to see the actual Starswirl the Bearded in the show someday, but perhaps the MLP writers are trying to push that off for as long as possible. Maybe save it for the very end of the show, come to think of it. But I'd like to think that the MLP writers introduced the character of Sunburst for very good reasons which will be revealed in time. Or perhaps, someday, Starlight and Sunburst might have a foal of their own. And perhaps that will grow up to be Starswirl the Bearded. What do you think? I am Dr. Wolf, and I look forward to hearing from you.